Welcome to another edition of the Nightly Nugent. You know, Ted, you're always talking about you feel like you're trapped in the Planet of the Apes. Boy, in Maryland, Democratic lawmaker Charlotte Crutchfield has a bill that would prevent anyone under the age of 25 from being charged with felony murder. And for our listeners, just so you understand, felony murder is akin to first-degree murder, and it's appropriate if someone is killed or dies during the commission of a felony. If you're the getaway driver and someone was killed in the bank that your buddies were robbing, you're guilty just as if you pulled the trigger. If you go into a house to burglarize it and you bust through the door and somebody dies, you're responsible. That's felony murder. And apparently, Democrat Crutchfield doesn't believe if you're 25 years or younger that you ought to be culpable for that kind of death. Ted, how in the world could anyone with a straight face propose such preposterous legislation?
Everyone at the Nightly News, unless you're driving, close your eyes. Think of your loved one. Think of your son, your daughter, your wife, your husband, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad. And someone is stabbed to death in the act of a home invasion or a carjacking. And you're holding your loved one and they're dead. You were having fun with them yesterday and you were celebrating family activities yesterday, and now they're gone. The happiness, the love, the family ties, the joy, the life, the laughter, it's over. And the person that did it was 24 years old. And he's in court snickering at you, maybe even giving you the finger. And some monster in our government says you're just going to have to deal with it because he's at a certain age where he's not going to be prosecuted for ripping this loved one out of your life. This Crutchfield demon is the curse of mankind because it literally is giving excuses and exonerating the most egregious violence man is capable of perpetrating against fellow man. These people are given the green light to kill more of your loved ones, and she wants to make it okay. And here's a little tip for you if you study the history of crime in America. That person that stabbed your loved one to death, when it gets off for felony murder because he's not the right age, he's going to do it again. And this, what's her name? Dolores?
Charlotte Crutchfield.
Charlatan Crutchfield. She literally laughs in your face because you don't need your brother. You don't need your mom. That her death and her vicious, violent murder is okay in her mind is something you're just going to have to deal with. Once again, Keith, not just in Maryland, but all across this country, we are going down for the third time of engineered recidivism. Yes. We are in the whitewater rapids of celebrated violent crime all across this country, where the same people keep stabbing and raping and carjacking and murdering and assaulting and baseball batting and shoving people in front of trains. And the most vicious, violent acts and crimes are continuing because of engineered recidivism, where our court system keeps letting stabbers and shooters and rapists and child molesters out. And when you let a stabber and a shooter and a rapist and a murderer and a child molester and carjacker out, they're going to do it again. And that's what this horrible subhuman monster wants to do in Maryland, and that's what's going on all across this country. Don't let it happen. Call your elected employees and say this is insanity, and we don't stand for insanity. Unless you stop the insanity, we're voting you the hell out of any representation of we the people. Good over evil. This horrible person wants evil over good. America, don't stand for it.
1 point, Ted, and then one question. So when you think about this, The demon Crutchfield, as you call her, if her bill is passed, this applies to gang members. And think about this, 10 people home invade you. One person stabs your loved one. Only the stabber can be charged. The rest of them, although they were committed a violent felony, if they're under 25, they get away with it. The driver in the drive-by gang-banging shooting, he's not liable for felony murder because he didn't pull the trigger. That to me is tragic. But here's my final question, Ted. The statistics back you up. Stabbers, shooters, beaters, they're all released oftentimes with no bail. Yet the QAnon shaman is getting 4 years in prison. Our listeners are having a very difficult time justifying this two sets of justice. What's your final word, Ted?
Well, once again, you're correct. You know, when I said the stabber killed your loved one and they should be prosecuted, so should the guy that kicked down the door with the stabber. So should the getaway driver that got the stabber to kill your loved one. I understand felony murder. I know the difference between first-degree murder, the actual perpetrator with the knife in his hand versus the guy that was on his side. Yes, if that's the kind of people that break into your house, they're all guilty of the consequences of that break-in.
Yes.
What kind of freak, what kind of chimp, what kind of horrible anti-human monster wouldn't understand that? And regarding Jason Chasley, we talked about it yesterday on the Nightly News. My friends, thank you for supporting the Nightly News, but don't just nod your head and then go about your business. You've got to pick up the phone. You've got to send those emails. You've got to communicate with your senators and your congressmen, your mayor, your state trooper commander, your chief of police, your sheriff, the prosecuting attorney. You got to let judges know when they're trying to vote in somebody who would support engineered recidivism on the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. You need to stop these people. People who are against the family values that make the greatest quality of life in the history of the world, God, family, country, law, and order. People that are against that should have no power over us. And right now, the worst of the worst have power over us. So 2 points. Stop these kind of insane, increasing in incremental destruction of our good over evil court system, of our justice system, and stand up for what you believe in. I'm going to reference once again, standupamericaus.org. We're going to put that on the screen every day because people need to go there, because these are all related. All these incidents, the January 6th outrage, the Kyle Rittenhouse outrage, the George Kelly outrage, the Jason Chasley outrage, they're all connected. Our court system is failing us. So stand up for what you believe in, and let's put an end to this.
Powerful stuff, Ted. I want to keep on the court system again tomorrow, except it's not in America, it's in Canada. I want to talk about a young Catholic man that was arrested in Ontario, Canada, for the incredible, egregious crime of saying there's only two genders, man and woman. Crazy stuff, Ted. We'll talk about that tomorrow right here on the Nightly News.
Yowza.